Hey guys, thank you all for joining for the Essentials of App Development webinar. So before we start the webinar, so let me first introduce myself. My name is Gautam, and I'm the founder and CEO of AirMindus Innovations Private Limited. So which houses these two ventures, that is Infinity Drones and Atharved. So Infinity Drones is something that we founded in 2017, which is a drone solutions venture. And last year in 2019, we started this edtech firm called as Atharved. So wherein we provide training and internship opportunities and upskilling opportunities in industry 4.0 specific technologies such as AI, IoT, web development, app development, UI UX design, and then we are also venturing into AR, VR, and all these things on when coming to hardware and all on robotics and drones, all such kinds of domain. We are giving an exposure and upskilling opportunity for students. So before I begin, I want to ask you, please do add this in the chat. I want to ask you, how many of you in this during in this lockdown period or whatever the quarantine period was there? So how many of you enrolled to multiple courses? How many of you enrolled and got certificates in different like Coursera, Udemy, or whatever it is? I think many of you might have done a lot of courses, right? So, and how many of you exactly had now? You did a course, okay? You finished an entire whatever the curriculum was given. You watched the entire all the videos, and maybe you have done some small practice on it also. And after getting the certificate, then how many of you had this question like, what to do next? What do I go? Do I go? What do I do with the certificate? What do I do next with this? So, how many of you have exactly had this kind of a feeling? I'm sure many of you might have had this kind of question. If you had the same thing, please type a yes in the chat box. Now we would be so where all the other edtech companies stop, that's where Atharvad begins. So what to do next once you now get the certificate or whatever it is, that's where we come in. So to know more about us, what we do exactly, and how you can go ahead, a step ahead, and be on the path of that continuous learning. So for that, stay tuned till the end. So once this essentials of app development webinar is done, so I'll be telling you more about what we do as a company and what are the products that we provide for the students and what are the kind of trainings that we provide, or the entire concept of Atharvad to you. So okay, stay tuned. I would request all of you to stay tuned till the end to know more about us. Okay, over to Preetham. You can continue with the webinar.
So that was a great introduction. So good morning all of you and welcome back to another session on Android app development. So I am Preetham from Atharvad, and in Atharvad I play the role of lead for app development domain. And in this session I will be your instructor. So before starting this session, let me just do a recap of what we had done in our past session. So in the previous session, I had mainly introduced to you the types of app development, and then focused on native app development, and under that Android app development. So the main concept will be Android app development. Also, I introduced you to a software called Android Studio. Also, I showed you steps to download Android Studio, set it up for yourself, and also the front end, the basics UI designing I taught you in the first session. So if you have missed my first session, you can go to the official page of Atharvad on YouTube and you can find the video there. Those who had attended my previous session, I think many of you are here. So I had asked you to have your software, Android Studio software ready, so that in this session we can develop an app together. So what will be our main focus in this session will be mainly focusing on the backend part, that is the Java, and also I will be showing you different project folders that you will be having. And also by the end of this session, we will be having one unique app that will be an interactive app. What I call is a currency converter, where you will be giving an input in form of rupees and you'll get an output in form of dollars. Pretty simple app, but we will be learning how to develop this using Java. Okay, so let's get started directly. So here is your Android Studio software. So those who are new here, again, as I said, you will be getting this software freely on your any network site, and you can download it straight away from there. Also, we have given a detailed video of how to download and install Android Studio, that you will find it in our YouTube channel. So now let me start my new project. So here I'll be starting a new Android project, and then I have to select and template. So not much detail I'll be telling you about what these options are and what these options are, because you'll find this in detail in my first session. But since we are doing this for those who are new, and since we are beginning to develop an app, we'll be using an empty template that will be an empty activity, and then click on next. So here you should give your app a name. As I said, we'll be doing one currency converter. So I'll just name it as currency converter. And then here's your package name. So this is package name. It will be very important to form your own package. And then once I click on finish, you will be having your project getting ready. So once all your build functions and indexing are finished, you will be having your project folder ready. And here's the overview of how your project folders will be looking in the beginning. So here, this is the editing window where you will be editing all your code. Here are your project folders. And the main part of Android app development, in fact, any app development, is testing. So you need to test your app after every major changes or any small changes you do, you need to test your apps, right? So for that, we'll be requiring something called a virtual device. You can also use your own mobile phones, your Android devices. If you are having, you have to just connect it to a USB cable to your laptop, and then in your mobile phone you need to enable USB debugging that you will find in your developer options, and then you can run it straight away into your mobile phone. But since using our laptops, a virtual device in our laptops will be more comfortable for us, we will be going for the option of virtual device. So to create a virtual device, you need to first go to this option called the AVD manager. Here will be an AVD manager, so where you can create your own virtual device. So now I have already created a virtual device. So let me show you how to create your own virtual device. So here you have the option called create virtual device. When I click on that, you will be having a category where you will have to select your device. There are different sets of device, but we'll be focusing mainly on the mobile phones. So phones I'll be selecting, and then here are different devices that we have. So let me just select Nexus 6, then click on next. Next page, here you have to select your operating system for your device. You can either select the latest ones or the oldest ones. It's up to you, the type of app you are developing. So if you want it to be compatible to older versions also, you will be starting it with older versions. So if you want it to have run on only modern operating systems, then you will be selecting on modern operating system. So once you select it, you need to download that operating system. So the operating system will again have a download size of around 1 GB. So I have already kept one ready, that is the Oreo. So if you are creating a virtual device, you will have to download it. It will take some time. So once you're done with download, you'll have this window again. So you have to select the operating system, then click on next, and then you have to select the orientation. Let me just keep it to defaults and click on finish. So once you click on finish, you will have your own virtual device ready. So I'll show you how a virtual device actually looks. It's just simple mobile phone inside your laptop. So you will have all the features, all the apps of your mobile phone. But the thing is, since it is a virtual emulator, it will be a bit slow, but we can work with that. So your creating your virtual device will take some time depending upon your device. So once your virtual device is ready, so here, this, as you can see, this is something called a virtual emulator. So it is similar to that as your app or your mobile phone, sorry. So you'll have different apps. You can power off, have volume keys, you can rotate your screen, screenshot option, and all different options that you will be having on your device. So I hope everyone is clear with the creation of virtual device. So it will be important to test your apps when you are building apps. So now let me continue with our currency converter app. Okay, so here is your basic UI part, and here you have two important folders. These two important folders will be having all your files or the tools that will be running your app. Here you have your app folder and then the Gradle script. Gradle scripts contain all your open source build tools that will be merging all your folders and files inside this main app folder and making it as your app. So right now we'll not worry much about the Gradle scripts because we don't have to make any changes there. So let me just go to apps. So again, here you have three files, three folders. First is manifest, Java, and resources. So what is manifest? Manifest contains one XML file, that is Android manifest. So if I just open this file, you can see a bunch of code here. So again, this is XML code, nothing much to worry. This is all pre-written. The main things that Android manifest handles is your app icon, your app name, app theme, and certain small features that will be making your app outline look better. So here you can change these things accordingly. So again, we won't be making any changes in this folder right now. So after manifest, you have your Java. So Java is the important part where you have your backend part, and also these two are test files that you don't have to worry about. The main part will be this, and here you have main activity. So this is your Java file for your first activity. Again, there are a bunch of code here. So let me just explain to you what this pre-written code means. So first of all, you can see the package name. Package name is the same as you had earlier given when you had created this app. So it will be having all the folders files inside a package, and the package will be named as com.example currency converter. You can also change this package name. Next, you have two import statements. So first is the Android app compat activity. So what this import statement does is it makes your app compatible to the operating system. Okay, so your app works on various levels of operating systems. So it makes your app compatible to that operating system. And next, you have the import Android OS bundle. So what this does is it finds out your operating system and works with it. It tells the operating system to give certain features to it. So these are the import statement, and whenever you have to import any new widgets or anything new, you will be having this import statement working with you. Next, you have this class. So if you are familiar with coding, you have some coding experience in the past, you will be knowing what a class means. So it is a chunk of code where you will be having certain different methods and functions. So every activity will be having a class. So it is for this main activity, you will be having this main activity class. And this is a public class. That means it is accessible from anywhere within this project. And this class extends from app compat activity. As I said, app compat activity, it makes your app compatible with your operating system. So this class just extends, it adds some code to your app compat activity, because this app compat activity is very necessary for us. So once you initialize your class, you'll be having this flower brackets. So this is very common in any programming language. Next, you have this method, that is the override method. So what does override mean? You are having this onCreate method here. So what onCreate does is this part of the code. So whatever you see inside this here, this will run every time your activity opens or your app runs. So onCreate means whenever your app is running, it will run the code within this. So what override does is there is already an onCreate function in Java. It is pre-built. So what override does is any changes we add here, it just adds on to this onCreate function. We are not creating a new function. We are just adding certain code changes. And again, this onCreate function is a protected function. That means it can be used only within this activity. And then there's the bundle saved instance state. So what saved instance state means that if you are minimizing your app and then you'll find your app in the history, so the app process will be saved on your RAM, right? So after some time it might get deleted, but for some time there will be your app as it is. When you close it and open it later on, you'll find that. So this saved instance state means it will collect your data that you had in your history and then display it as it is when you open it again. So this part of the code does that for you. And finally, you have set content view r.layout.activity main. What this does is it gives it a front end. So right now, till this part, this much of the code, it doesn't know what the front end of this backend code is. So at this line, it says that you are having a front end page, and the name of that front end page is activity main. So where you can find this activity main, you have to go to R means this resources folder, and under that you have to go to layout. Again, you have to go to layout, and you'll find this activity main.xml. So this gives you the address of your location or your front end. So I hope you are clear with this basic code that you will be having in the beginning. So once you have done with Java, we'll go to resources folder. Here you will be having all your images, your audio and icon images, all different things will be under your resources folder. Also your strings, colors, everything will be stored under your resources folder. Also your front-end XML codes will be stored under your resources folder. So right now, only the two important files that we require are, one is activity main.xml, and then under Java, its backend part, that is the main activity.java. So whenever you create a new activity, so I hope you know how to create a new activity. You have to just give a right click here, and then you will have an option new. You can create an activity. So once every time you create an activity, you'll get two more files that will be a backend file and the front end file that will go on adding here. So right now in our currency converter app, we just require one single activity. So we'll work with what we have. So those who have attended my previous session, you must be familiar with this UI, right? I had taught you there how to get different elements from your palette, and then the attributes, how you can change different attributes for your different elements, and also the component tree. So right now we have a problem statement of building a currency converter app. So as a software developer, or in fact, if you're a web developer, app developer, anything, you need to learn to break your problems down. So right now, what I require is an input block. So as to collect the amount in rupees, whatever number the user enters, I have to collect it. Then I need a button, right? So why is a button required? So whenever we click the button, something should happen. So in our case, we will be converting the rupees into dollars. So we require two elements from our palette. So here we already have a text view. So let me just use it as it is. So instead of hello world, I will be naming it as currency converter. Okay. And again, it is very small. So let me just change it. So anyone have attended my previous session, can you just say me how I can change the text size from my attributes? Any option I have told you earlier? So I hope you don't remember it. So let me just say that in attributes, you will be having something called the text size, and in text size, you can assign it different size. Let me just keep it to 24, so it looks pretty big now. And also let me change the text color. So red, blue looks fine. And since it is a constraint view, we have to constraint it. It already has a constraint. So these are called constraints, which attach your elements onto the borders of your screen so that they don't move from their original position. So right now I need it as a heading, so I'll keep it at the top. Okay, we are good with the heading. Next, require an input field. So input field, as I said before, we need something called the edit text. So edit text, we have different types of edit text here. So instead of just having a plain edit text, so in plain edit text, you'll be writing anything, any symbols, letters, anything. But what our app does, it takes number as an input, right? So money, rupees will be in form of number. So we will be using something called the number edit text. So once I drag and put it here, so this element again will be appearing on the screen. So let me just match the width with the screen width. I'll write match parent. So these are simple commands: wrap content and match parent. Wrap content means it wraps the size accordingly, the text box size according to the content within it. Match parent does what it does is it matches the parent size, that is your screen size. So this will be our text edit text view where we'll be writing our input. And let me just give you another attribute that is called the hint. So what this hint does is, in different login pages, you must have seen that in your input line, you'll be having something in shadowish gray color that will be writing username. So when you click on that, it will get disappeared. So hint is exactly that. So here I'll write enter amount in rupees. Okay, so I hope you can see this shadowish color here. So this will say this will be a hint amount in rupees. Okay, I think we are done with this editing of edit text view. This much is enough. Next, final thing that we require is a button. Right? We require a button so that when we click on that button, we'll be converting that rupees into dollars. So as I said before, this is a constraint view. We need to do constraints here. So I'll just click on this circle and then drag it here. So it will constrain it to the upper element. And then for this, I'll constrain it to the lower element. So that these three elements are now attached to each other and would not move when we run our app. So this constraint process is done. And for this button now, we'll give it a name. Like the text, it will be not just button, we'll write it as convert. Okay, so these things, whatever I have done right now, I had also done these things in my previous session. So this is just a work along coding. So those who are following and doing your app right now, so I hope you are done with the UI part. So once my front end designing is done, so I'll be checking the app for all the design errors. So I'll just click on run. So when I click on run, the virtual device that I already opened, this app will be running on our virtual device. So once the installation process is finished, this app will be running on our virtual device. So let me just wait until the process is finished. And also, before I go into our virtual device, button is a clickable element, right? So under the button, you will be having an attribute called on click. So any name you give here, you can initialize a function in your backend using the same name. And when the button will be clicked, the function in the backend will be running. And that whatever code is inside that function, that part of the code will be running. So we'll be using this process to change our rupees into dollars. We'll be giving an onClick method name here, and then we'll be writing some code in the backend and we'll be running it. So the install is done. So I'll open my virtual device. So as you can see here, the app is running in my virtual device. So currency converter and enter amount in rupees, since we have given it a number text view. So once I click on that, only numbers will be present here. So I'll write 65. So when I click on convert, what our actual app should do, it will take this input and convert it into dollars and then display the output. But right now there is no such backend return. So whenever I click on convert, nothing happens. Okay, so now let us go to the more interesting part, that is developing our backend. So as I said, I had explained this part of the code. So whatever code we write for our UI part, that all the code inside our main class. So this inside this main public class, main activity, all the code should be written. So let me start. Before we start, I had said you that we need to give an onClick method name here. So let me just name it as convert ppn. convert btn. So it will on-click name will be convert btn. So it shows an error here. It's saying that you have just given the function name but haven't written any function in the backend. So we'll be doing it sooner. And also, I had said something about IDs. So what an ID is? So every element in your activity should have a unique name so that it can be identified from your backend. So right now, when we code our backend, we require this edit text view, right? So we have this ID, unique ID called edit text number. So if I go on adding new edit text, this ID won't remain same. So this ID will be given 1, 2, 3, then it will make the ID unique. So any element, any two elements in an same activity cannot have the same ID, because then the program will get crashed, our app will get crashed. So right now I'll give it a simpler name. I'll write it as value. And this convert button, we don't require the ID right now because we'll be doing it using another method, that is the on-click method. If you are doing it using the ID, then again there will be 2 to 3 lines of extra code. I'll be also showing this method whenever we require that method, but right now we'll be going good with the on-click method. So once all this front end part is done, I need to start writing the on-click method. So I'll be writing it as a public method, and it won't be returning anything, so public void. And then here name I had given it in the on-click method. So it was convert btn, right? And any function when you create, you need to either pass variables or not, it's up to you. But whenever you create a method for your button click, you need to pass it a view. So what a view is now, any element you are using in your front end is called a view. So this is a text view, this is a edit text view, this is a button view. So for our backend, it requires a view. So how we initialize a view? We initialize it with the V capital view, and then we have to name it. So you can see a red underline. It says there is no import statement for Android view. So also it gives you the solution. Click Alt Enter. So when I click it, you'll be getting a new import statement here. That will be your view import statement. So once you have imported it, then you need to give it a name. I'll just keep it as V. Again, it predicts, gives a predictive test, so you can go with view so as to make it simpler. So let me keep it as it is. And then initializing any method, you'll be going with the flower brackets. So these are simple syntax rules you have to remember about Java. So how to write your functions. Any function will be initialized with the flower brackets. Okay, so flower brackets are done. So any part of the code we write here. So whenever we click our button, this part of the code will be running. So now, whenever you click the button, what are the things we require? We require the number that is written inside our text view, right? So for that, we need to identify that particular text view. How do we do that? So that's where our ID comes into play. So we had given it a unique ID, right? So now in the backend, what we need to do is just find it using its ID. And there are pre-built methods to do such things. So first, let me initialize. So any text view, edit view, any view, for example, is initialized using its own keyword. Keywords, as you are familiar with, for integers, it will be int in different programming languages. And for any view in this Java programming language, especially for Android Studio, you will be having certain keywords. So that for edit text, it will be capital E edit text. So again, there's predictive test in Android Studio. It will make your coding process much easier. And then here you have to give it a name. I'll keep it as value. And next you need to find that UI element. So how we do that? You find it using its ID. So let me just type in the code find, and you can see a predictive text here. It says find view by ID. So that's exactly what we need, right? We need to find it using its ID. So we'll be clicking on find view by ID. And what was our ID? It was value. But when we just enter value, that's not right. There's an error in this part. So why? We're not able to identify this value. So for that, what we need to do is we need to give it the exact address of that ID. So right now, if you just type value, it won't be recognizing it. So where this ID is stored, as I said before, this also stores all the important folders, files, strings, anything that you create in your file, everything will be inside your resources folder. So I'll be writing capital R. Capital R represents your resource folder, and inside that I'll be searching for an ID. And under ID, it will be value. So simple, this is the address of our value. So it will be under our resources folder, under the subfolder of ID, and under that value. Okay, so and after every line in our programming language, that is Java, we need to have a semicolon. So these are simple syntax that you need to remember whenever you are coding. So we have now initialized our edit text view. So next, what we need to do is we need to get the text from that edit text view, and also we need to convert it to a string. So why we need to convert it to a string? Because once we convert it to a string, we can then convert it into any other type. So when we are converting our input, that is from rupees to dollars, we need to convert it into an integer type. So before we convert it into an integer type, we need to get the string format of that. And you cannot use string directly because you cannot do multiplication operations on your strings, right? So next, what we will be doing is we'll be getting that text and then converting it into string. So value is the name of our edit text, and then I'll write the period symbol. So period symbol, you can see it everywhere. So this gives the sep method under any major methods. So what we need to get the text from our value. So you have this method here. So I'll do get text, and then we need to convert it to string. Again, period symbol, and I need to convert it to string. So when I write 2, I'll get this option to string. So this part of the code gets our text, converts it into a string. So we have got the string value now, but we need to convert it into an integer format. We'll be using the double because we'll be having decimal places in our rupees or in our dollars when we do conversion. So we'll be going with the double. Now, how do we convert our string to a double? So again, as a developer, you don't need to remember each and every part of the code that you require. So some things, when you do simple Google search, you'll be finding it on the net. So let me just go to Google and type in convert string to double in Android Studio. Convert our string to a double in Android Studio software. Okay, that's what I have to enter. And when I search, I'll get the first link. Will prefer Stack Overflow because you'll get majority of the solutions in here. And if I go here, I'll be having the problem statement. So this part of the code, maybe it does the job for us. So what is this? First of all, you need to initialize a double variable and then do double dot pass double. So it will be converting your string into your double. So pretty simple code, right? Even I did not remember this. I just did a Google search right now. So now we have the string part. So what we need to do now is initialize a double. So we'll be writing double, and it will be my amount in rupees. Okay, I have initialized my double variable, and then it will be equal to, as I have seen here, I'll be using double dot pass double. So I'll write double dot pass double, and then inside this I need to pass my string. So what is my string? Value dot get text to string. So I'll write cut it and just paste it here. So now we have converted our string or the value, whatever we had inside our edit text, into double. So after every line, you need to have the semicolon. So this is done. Next, we need to convert this rupees into dollars. So again, I need another double variable for that. So I'll be initializing another double variable, and this will be our amount in dollar. Okay. So once I do this amount in dollar, this will have just the multiplication factor. So from rupees to dollars, it will be amount in rupees star 0.013577, I guess. Yeah. So this is the multiplication factor we have to convert our rupees into dollars. So now we have got the dollar amount. Now what we need to do, we need to display it as an output. So there are again plenty of methods you can use. You can either use a text view and then change the text of that text view once you click on the button. We will be using something called a toast. So what is the toast? Whenever you use certain apps, for exiting your apps, whenever you click on the back button, you'll get a small pop-up from the bottom. It says click back again to exit. So these small pop-up messages are called toast. So we'll be using just that. So you'll be learning new different features for your app. So I'll not just go with the text view. So text views are pretty commonly used. I'll show you another method, that is the toast. So for using a toast, you just have to type in toast. Once you type toast, you have two options here. So one will be the Android widget, another will be a create new toast. We'll be going with the create new toast. And once I click on it and click on enter, this part of the code appears. So it was pretty simple. No work right there. I just write in toast, and then I have to create a new toast, click enter, and this is the code. So again, it will be having its own meaning. It will make text and then context. This represents to this activity. Then toast length will be short. So if you give it long, the toast will remain for more time, and then show to show the toast. And whatever you need to pass will be inside this double quotes. So if you're having strings to pass, you will be passing it in the, inside the double quotes. Or if you are doing, now it is a variable right now, so I'll be directly passing it outside the double quotes. I'll not use the double quotes. I'll write in amount in dollar. So that's what we require. Again, red underline here. So you every time you will be having this errors. You just need to understand the errors and then decode it. So what the error here is, you just directly can't give a double. You cannot pass it to anything, any view, any text view or even toast. So you have to convert it to a string. So method is simple, just give a period symbol, and then you have the first method, that is toString. Double is converted to string. So nothing much task there. It is just conversion of your double to your string. So this is the basic code. So let me quickly check it. So if there are any errors, also, as I said, you can use your text view in your front end part. You can just place a small text view here and then give the solution directly. You can give it, pass it to your text view. So it's up to you. You can do anything. You can use different attributes, different elements to make your app more beautiful. I just show you the simple basic foundation for your app, the backend part. So I install it successfully finished. I'll open my app. So it runs in this virtual device. Now I need to enter the amount. I'll type in 89. You can use your keyboard on your laptop also. I'll click on convert. And here you can see the solution. So let me just make it clear. Once I click on convert, I'll have this 1.2. So it was pretty quick right there. So I'll just change this length. Length long means it will be visible for some more time, and that output was pretty dull. So let me just make it prettier. I'll just add the dollar symbol and then concatenate. So string concatenation, the plus symbol, you must be familiar with this plus symbol. So that's around done. So I'll just rerun. So always whenever you're writing one pretty much big code, it will take some time. Whenever you make small changes and run, it will be installed quickly. So the install is finished, and then I have this. So I'll write in 100. Okay, I have the solution here. I'll just click on convert. It is $1.357. So as you can see, once I click on solution, it will be a pretty long decimal string. You can again make changes to that. You need to do string formatting. You need to reduce the places of decimal. You have certain codes that again you'll find on the internet, but that's up to you. You can do any modification you want to do, anything, it's up to you. So right now we are done with the basic prototype of our app. So any questions you have regarding the app or Android Studio front end, anything you can ask right now. You can either unmute yourself or you can put it in the chat window. Can a BCA graduate become Android developer? Anyone can become an Android developer. So you just need it as a passion. If you have the passion to develop Android app, then you can go with it. You can also pursue it as your career. Okay, any other programming language instead of Java? If you are using Android Studio software, then you have two options there. One will be Java, another will be Kotlin. So I chose Java because of its wide reference we have and wide usage. So it was pretty widely used at that time, and then developing it was simple. So recently Kotlin has come up. So again, if you are starting new and you want to go with Kotlin, you can do that also. You'll find resources for that also. So if you are using Android Studio, any one of these two will be good. So is there any specific website for elements that you use for an app? No, like any specific website. So if you are asking about development of UI from any other software, there are many softwares using which you can develop your UI for your app. But again, Android Studio is pretty much enough whenever it comes to developing your front end design. It has all the elements. The palette has all the elements that you require. So it's up to you. If you are going with softwares like Figma, you can do that. If you want to develop your front end in any other comfortable website and then collect the code from there and put it in Android Studio. Manish has another question. If you need to code in Python, then which software should we use? If you are going with app development, I don't think Python is the option you have, because for Android app development, um, Python is not commonly used. It is mainly Java, and Kotlin, as again said, will be using C Sharp in Unity. Python is mainly for web app development and your desktop apps. You'll be using Python, but not Android apps. Also, if you want to be part of many different sessions on various topics of given by Atharved, you can go follow us on our Instagram handle. You have the Instagram handle given in the chat box. You can follow us there. We'll be updating you with any new sessions we'll be having. Also, you can join our Telegram group. We'll be sending you text messages every week, and we'll be having these sessions on different topics. So you can join us whenever if you are free during Sundays.
So thank you for the session. Really great session. So yes, yeah, some of you had put like, okay, yes, you enrolled into a lot of, a lot of other courses and tutorials or whatever it is, and you got a few certificates and all of it, but you didn't know what to do after that. So what we do as a part of Atharved is we are not just like, we don't just provide a course to you. So it's not like we do this webinar and it's done. Okay, so we have something called as an Atharved Learning and Innovation Hub. So which was currently offline, and now we are taking it into a blended mode. That is, we do have an offline learning and innovation hub, and also we are taking it on an online platform, that is Discord. So we'll be taking it on Discord too. So we are majorly focused on like tier 2, tier 3 cities, because we feel that there are lack of opportunities in such kind of cities. Like if you look at metro cities like Mumbai, Bangalore, all those places, people know what to do, and there are a lot of resources for them to actually work for that. Uh, but coming to the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, there aren't very much opportunities available for them, and neither they have a lot of exposure. Even the students from, let's say, if you're any engineering college or any other technical college like Polytechnic or BC or whatever it is, they don't know what is going on around in the world in the industry. What are the different technologies? How many of you are aware of what is Industry 4.0? How many of you are aware of Industry 4.0? If anybody knows, can you just switch on your mic and just tell what is Industry 4.0, or just put it in the chat box? Or if you don't know, tell you you can say that okay, you don't know about it. How many of you know? Can you put a yes? And how many of you don't know? You can put a no in the chat box. Okay. So what do you mean by industrial revolution? So when you come to when you say industrial revolution, no, the first industrial revolution started when the first steam engine was invented. That is, the machines came into play. And the second industrial revolution started when electricity came into play, when electricity was started. And the third came when the computers and the IT revolution took place, when all the softwares and all the things came. Now we are entering into the phase of the fourth industrial revolution, which is more of a, previously it was used to be a single system having a software and automation running on a single system. Now this industrial revolution is more of cyber physical systems. What do you mean by cyber physical systems? Now we can connect from one system, not just automate that system, but also integrate it with multiple other systems together and automate from sitting from anywhere. And there are multiple other domains within that. That is, now you have IoT, you have AI, robotics, 3D printing, AR, augmented reality, and system integrations, simulations. All of this come as a part of your, the Industry 4.0 and or the fourth industrial revolution. So I want you to just go back home and go back. Obviously, I know you are at home, so you just go back after this session and just search your what is Industry 4.0 or what is fourth industrial revolution and what are the things. Then you will come to know what are the different things that you actually need to learn in order to, if at all you want to pursue your career in the tech industry, or because right now the main factor that is running the entire economy and all of it is that is the tech. So you say Swiggy, you say Zomato, whatever it is, you might say that okay, they are a food delivery app. So they are not a food company, but they are a tech company. They are a food tech company. So if you say Ola, Uber, so they are not a taxi company. They are they are a tech company. So in the same way, now each and every company, they have become a tech company no matter what service they provide. So it might be just something. I don't know if you have heard of something called as Dunzo, wherein if you want to send a small pen from one corner of the city to other, so you can hire a person for it on an app and just send it to Dunzo. I don't know if so then, yeah, so if you research about it, you'll come to know there are a lot of such domains that have come into play. So, and what we are doing is we are providing you an opportunity to upskill yourself and get trained, and then not just provide a certificate in that, and then don't know what to do about it. So we provide not just a simple course and complete the course and just go and then you maybe search for a job or provide the certificate in your college. It's not like that. So what we do is we have something called as a corporate environment or a startup environment, wherein we say that okay, now this is a place wherein you are working. So this will completely work as a startup. So wherein you can get enrolled and you can actually first get yourself trained, second work on some projects, and then continue with some research and development. So you will be basically like working in a startup. Say it's kind of an internship, but in other companies when you do an internship, it's like to meet the demands of that company, right? So the client demands of that company or whatever the client needs. But here, whatever you work in a similar fashion of how you'll be working in a company. But all the things that you'll be doing is to enhance your learning experience. So you don't have to meet any client demands, like not like there's a client of ours and you need to fulfill like their demands. So it's ultimately to you to learn, and at the same time not just learn technical things, but also learn what are the corporate and the interpersonal skills. That is how to work in a team, how to manage your time, how to handle the entire operations of your team. So and how do you report it? How reporting works in a company. So all of that in you can work in a survey. So we'll be soon coming up with how we can do that. How you can join us. So right now we had it offline, and soon we are going to launch it. So stay tuned for it. do follow us on our Instagram page, and I would suggest join our Telegram group right away, our community right away, so that. And I've been putting a lot of messages on that Telegram community, but not many people are actually responding to it. I want you guys to be curious, ask questions, and have a good amount of discussion, so that even we can jump into that and so help solve your issues. And if you want to know anything more about the tech, the industry, and whatever, or your what career to pursue, you can just put it in the group, and then just we'll be happy to help you and guide you through this. Okay. And you can follow us on Instagram and or other social media handles. You can follow us on LinkedIn. You can follow us on Facebook. So mostly we'll be highly active on Instagram and Telegram. So both of this. So follow us, and if any queries or any thoughts related to this you have, you can just put it over there. So yeah, thank you all for joining, and we'll soon let you know how can you get into a level higher with respect to not just this webinars, and how you can get a level higher in this. Yeah, thank you for joining, guys. It was a great session. Thank you, Pritam, for all the information you gave, the teachings you